Hello, good morning or good afternoon, depends if you're already ate or not. That's how my culture does it. Hi, everybody. My name is Carlos. I'm coming from Portugal. I've been here in the Netherlands for about 15 years, working for Braden University of Applied Sciences in different roles. At the moment, I'm being the person that has been working in the research area of applied data science and artificial intelligence. And that's a bit of what I'm going to be discussing today and covering today. I have now the role of professor, and I'm trying to lead a bit of the research. And today I'm going to be talking about what everybody's talking about, AI, the what is it, what is not, what can we do with it, and then I'm going to try to focus a bit more on one of the works that we're actually working on to support and actually have a bit of the work that we can actually support research and other different types of applications. So one thing that for me is something that needs to be noticed is that we are currently living through a really interesting times. Uh, if you look back at 10 years ago, and we said, well, what's the future of technology? AI was not on the radar. And even if the ones that were talking that AI was going to be something that's going to be evolving to, and we can actually do things, with it would never cover things like the creative side, the thinking process. It was always about the digestion, knowledge setup, bit of the robotic side, but having the possibility of able to have a creative process that you can actually generate images, having a conversation with. It was something that was not on the radar. It was something that showed up very, very recently, and very recently is less than 5 years ago in this area. So in things like having the possibility of going to a, a chat system and type in something like a raccoon playing tennis in Wimbledon in 1990s, this is something that's not would be possible to generate an image with, and or if they would, it was very, very bad, and people were not expecting the possibility of doing something like this. Um, the fact is that a few years ago, or a few years past, very recently, not only we can do that faster, we can do it better, we can do it animation. Actually have more context. If you look at the pictures, there's a few set of people in the back with hats and things like that. His uh, perspective in terms of congruence, in terms of the time perspective, the net in the tennis actually continues in a nice smooth pattern. It's a very different models that you can do. The evolution of AI, it's been quite fast, and it's actually going to be affecting us all. And what we're going to discuss today is a bit of how is going to be that affecting us. So what we're talking about lately is a new type of models and technologies and algorithms that we've been using for generation of content, and it's mainly focused on content generation, and we it's based on tokens, and tokens can be anything, right? Like it can be words, it can be pixels, it can be code, it can be videos, it can be enzymes, and that is actually becoming a baseline of using this new systems, these new models to generate tokens. And the token definition, it's really, really important to say that it's up to us to define. As long as we have enough data sets, enough data to relay on, we are allowing our artificial intelligence systems to be able to digest a big set of data to be able to use that to generate other tokens similar to that. And we've been seeing a very, very fast evolution of that in the current process and the current setup. So it's very interesting to see where we're going to be going, because we are still learning how to do those models better and faster and more efficient and with less data and with more variety. And so this is ongoing process. And I'm expecting that at least for a few more years, that evolution is still going to continue in the coming period. Um, Now, when I try to define a bit what is artificial intelligence, I kind of struggle because there's so many different definitions out there. So I'm defining artificial intelligence systems as digital tools that can perform tasks that resembles or imitate some kind of human cognitive abilities. And cognitive abilities are very much difference because there is a large set of cognitive abilities, like reasoning is one, but for example, sentience is another one, or having the possibility of having conscience is another. So having a bit of idea what your actions do in the real world, it's a very process on conscience. That is something that, for example, AI systems cannot do at the moment. They are still a generative based system that use elements to generate tokens. So I have no perception of what the token impact that they generate will have in the real world. Words are better than swords. That's a very long quotes, or they're more powerful than swords. Those are real testament that words have impacts, and the AI have no perception of the tokens it generates, what is the impact it has in the world. So this is a very important notion that we have to say that AI has some cognitive human abilities, typically linked to perception in terms of understanding images in some ways, be able to put together some words that have meaning, but they have no sense of what is that going to cause in the real world, what is actually creating in terms of empathic elements to others. And that's really important to grasp because we still have to play that role in the AI outcomes. Um, the other important part is that on that definition is that AI is a tool in the sense that it's like a screwdriver, a very enhanced screwdriver, but it still has a significant impact on our lives, and it has a large set of fields that clearly has going to have the impacts on, but it's still a tool and it can be used for all kinds of variety of outputs, similar to what a screwdriver can do or a hammer. So again, that tool definition is really important for us to understand that it's something that we have to use as humans to support our work, not replace it. So we don't have to be replaced by a hammer. We have to use the hammer effectively to make sure that our nails are get placed correctly and more strongly. This is a really strong belief that I have is that the tooling aspect of AI, it's important in the sense that should be guiding our work and should be guiding our following up processes. Now, it's also important to note where we're coming from and where we're going. If we look back into our setup, we AI became very effective like 10 years ago with things like speech recognitions or spatial awareness or pattern recognitions. We call that perception AI, where we actually use computer vision. That's a big process that actually took out and started like 5, 10 years ago. We actually have to have the AI be able to perceive our world, to understand our world, understand our words, understand our language. And that's perception AI. It was really, really important, especially coming from computer vision. Nowadays, we are in this phase of generative AI where she can take this perception and understanding of the world and actually starting to generate content with. And we see that a lot with large language models, but also diffusion models that can use things like text generation or video synthesis or code assistance to actually support our work. So far, this is more or less where we are. What we are looking at and we're seeing is that we're actually going to take those and actually start giving agency to those models. We are talking about agentic AI, where we actually allow the AI models or systems or customer servers or assistant elements that to actually execute tasks for us. In the sense, for example, book me a ticket or arrange my taxes or please connect to customer service and make sure that I have a landline working. So all of those things that we will start doing, will start giving agency to AI to allow them to represent us or do tasks for us. This obviously has inherent situation impact because we are literally being replaced by an agentic agent, which has an impact in the world. We are starting seeing that already kind of happening, where we actually go to a chat GPT model saying, this was the email, this is what I want to write, please get me a correct answer that I have to email back and forward. And we copy paste that into an email response, and then the other person does the same. And we are now seeing a lot of this agentic agents conversating with each other. Uh, but we are the middleman. We are literally the ones copy pasting. That's our role at the moment. It's like, this is what I want to say. That's a part of the role. But the other part is copy pasting into the email chat bot, but you're basically copy pasting the answer that you got from a large language model, ChatGPT. This is something that we are seeing a lot, that this automatic copy pasting will happen. You'll still be able to probably say a yes or no. Please book me a meeting at this date. What are your time frames? But all of this quick actions that are placed in the copy paste will be done by agentic AI. And up to a point, we're going to be able to represent ourselves, and up to a point, we're not. And this is a problem, or can be a problem in the future, because those agentic agents are going to be able to manage some of your assets, being money, being resources, being time. The next final step that we're going to see, and we are starting to see some outcomes of that, is autonomous vehicles and generic robotics. So we're going to have those agents living in the real world and cohabiting with us. When I was in the U.S. in San Francisco 2 or 3 months ago, I had a Waymo ride where I actually had a autonomous vehicle coming to me by a mobile phone and drive me 20 kilometers away, and it was actually okay. I didn't feel threatened by having an agent driving me around. I was more threatened by the driver, the Uber driver that drove me back, than actually the car that took me there. So this is something that, with time, with the ability to allow people and to be accustomed to robots and they be part of our world and slowly integrating our daily lives, that we're going to be start seeing more and more naturally. Now, all of this work is based on evolution of data sets. We've been strongly focusing on gathering data and data and data. And we know that data sets are really essential in terms of being representative, ethical, and large. We are now reaching to the point that we are aggregating most of the data that we get from the internet and be able to pass to train large language models. But there are still some caveats on it. There's the problem of relevance, or quality, quantity, diversity, balance, accuracy, completeness, representativeness, up-to-date, and ethics. All of those things that need to be elements that are part of big data sets that you have to create a meaningful model and agent that can lead you to a helpful model. So it's things that we have to look at. The other problems that we look at the moment, specifically in Europe, is there is a big digital autonomy gap in Europe. If you look at the evolution of the internet and the software and hardware elements that are behind it, there is still a big gap in terms of the elements and the countries and the work that is need to be done there. So the fact is that at the moment there is a new AI era, so it's a good chance for us to invest heavily in this area. to play catch up, because this is a new dimension, a new area that needs to be explored. So I'm happy that there is some European initiatives in this line, but we still have an entrepreneurial culture that is a bit too far away from others, like in China, which is very heavily sponsored by the government, but or the US, for example, which has a very much private funding, investing into venture capitalists and stuff like that. In Europe, we adopt a different model. We have much more regulatory, which creates a bit more tension, but there is the space there for us to invest and develop further. Um, in terms of impacts, it's very interesting to see that there is going to be large impacts. When I was talking about the evolution of AI, um, we have going to have in different fields, different areas that we have to look at. One of them is the AI impact that we'll have in knowledge and skill development. What is going to be required for us to know? What are is the required for us to ask AI to do for us or to know for us? It's going to be a very important one to look at. We're might rescind a bit of our autonomy because we are giving away our ability to do stuff for the AI to do stuff. That's a bit of the agentic AI problems. So the autonomy, and again, what is the dimension that we want to parton away from autonomy is really important to look at. Um, Individuality, if we are starting doing more and more work related to using models to so we are using models to work out individual setups, and use large language models to talk for us or to create art for us, or we're going to be using a large pool and biases focused elements, which might trump a bit the local cultures and individuality that we have. So we have to be a bit aware of that. Social connections is one that for me is probably the less um, obvious, in the sense that if we start thinking again, allowing AI agents to represent us in our meetings, in our conversations, in our elements, we're going to be allowing AI to dictate a bit of who are the important social connections for us. And that is another, for me, important um, element to have to evaluate of how much we want to dictate or allow AI to create our own research network or our network in terms of business or even social setup. So that is something that we have to really be careful with in terms of how we look at things. In general, there is a large set of values that we have to consider. Obviously, there is going to be biases coming from different models that we are adopting, specifically they coming from different cultural backgrounds, and how much those will affect our own values are really, really important. So this is a bit of the introduction where we are with AI. Now, I want to talk a bit more about what we are working on in BUas in terms of data science and artificial intelligence research department, and I want to tackle a specific use case and some work that we are working on. Now, uh, first of all, we set up a profile in terms of research and development for data science and AI that founds in three pillars. One is obviously responsibility. We have to figure out a bit of the work around where we are in the world and what by developing specific systems, what that brings to the future. So we have to think about ethical by design, working with AI, make sure that we create a trust area that humans and AI can work together in such a way that they don't trample each other. So having a bit of the responsibility of what are we developing that can bring and make sure that our human in the loop, it's really, really important. The other thing that we have to look at is focus. We are still a small university in the big, big world. So we have to be very excellent and focusing on specific applications. So we cannot just go out and do everything. We have to cope with what are we good at and try to focus on making very strategic and excellent applications of the work that we were working on. And finally, focusing a lot in innovation. This has a lot to do with our profile as applied university and be able to actually create and connect with industry, connect with companies, and to actually try to foster some solutions into specific problems in our domains and the work that we're working on. Very briefly, I'm going to talk a bit some of the work initiatives that we've been having in-house. So I have a bit of knowledge, external knowledge to you guys of what we've been working on. So first of all is that there was a definition a couple of years ago from the executive board that AI would be a pillar in the development for the future. And that is not only a saying, actually there were some initiatives around to make that happening. One of them is to create a team we're called the AI Pioneer Team that actually defines specific actions and take and activities to make that happen. So we the first action was actually to create the Pioneer Team, and that team is been developing a group of elements and things that have been working around the AI and trying to push and create a bit of more of the culture of using AI ethically in our university. One of the big elements that we're doing is that we already started with a full staff training of what is AI, how we use it. This is including lectures, researchers, and operational staff. We already finished what we call the basic course or the fundamental course, and now we're actually doing a more intermediate course. We actually teach people about ethics, about how to use large language models, how to use diffusion models for images, etc. So that is something that we've been working very hard. We actually invested heavily to create our own training team that actually now is tasking and going through all our staff and teaching our staff this skills. So this is a huge effort that we've been putting in. Other things that we've been looking at is tools uniformization. So not everybody can use their own tools. We can start using specific tools and try to provide the best to our staff. So we actually going through a pipeline of assessing tools and trying to uniformize that, try to provide if they are GDPR compliant, if they are AI Act compliant, things like that, which lead us to our data governance. We are now embarking into a very strong data governance system that are actually currently creating different elements into creating a framework for ethics, but also make sure that we can actually do data governance and AI governance structure in-house. Other things that are not mentioned in the slide are we've created a 5-year plan to increase our compute power in-house to make sure that the resources are available to our staff, and we have a prediction on that. So every year we're investing to increase our compute power. We have a set of communications to students and lecturers, things like the Spark sessions and the AI cafes and other things there, and blog posts to actually share advances in AI that our team is developing or that is happening in the world. And we are starting a new makerspace focusing on AI, looking at things like robotics, research, innovation, and education, and bringing those things together. So this is a bunch of different elements that we currently and they're coupling together as initiatives under the branch of AI, and this is one of the elements that we are driving our university forward. We also have some research projects that we're currently involved in. These are externally funded projects. Most of them are European. I think all of them are European, either Erasmus or Digital Europe, and they are all of them linked with AI. I'm not going to introduce them, but if you want to know more about them, let me contact me and I can give you a bit more information. Um, Now, one of the things that I want to really talk about today is the AIDA project. I'm not going to go too deep into it. I'm just going to reference a bit of what the project is and how can we move forward. The AIDA project is a research-focused project that we are currently doing, focusing on quantitative research. So one of the problems that we currently have is that we are doing a lot of qualitative research. We actually going around interviewing people and actually asking around to gather information about qualitative research. We have several projects doing this type of work. And there is some tools out there that currently can help us, but we feel that they don't are not able to do and support us in the right way. At the moment, there is a lot of resource intensive and work that we have to do. We have to do a lot of transcription, and for every transcription, it's a process that we actually have to do things, and there is a lot of work to be done there. So in terms of qualitative research, it's clearly really a powerful element, but there is still a lot of work that us individuals and researchers have to do. Um, uh, so every transcription takes around 4 hours to actually do transcription properly, and there is obviously a process of interpretation and biases that sometimes comes out from there. There is obviously the new requirements of GDPR compliance in terms of where we record the audio or the video of the interviews. And there is obviously, depending on how many interviews that we do, we might spend 2 weeks just doing data collection and transcription and coding and analysis. And that's a very time-consuming process, and that it's currently reducing a bit our capacity as researchers. So one of the elements that we are looking at is creating our own solution to support research and qualitative research process. And we go through a series of steps to actually ensure that the researcher is still in control and still in the main part. So we want to create an end-to-end solution that actually supports research, not replaces researchers in their tasks. In things like transcriptions, we can actually allow people to submit their own video or audio and actually does the transcription automatically, but you can still be able to edit and change and directly go to the audio in the right position to make sure that we actually can edit that information. So we go through like a 6-step process into this, and the workflow that we designed at the moment is to start with step 0, which is basically set up a project which is dedicated for that type of research that can be completely secure, GDPR compliant, encrypted, and be able to just uh, store that information and data that is not going to be accessed to anyone else except the researchers that will have the need to have access to that. So that is a first step to create that secure space that can only be accessed. And then we can actually restore the audio, the video, the text, the research notes, everything, the consent forms, and have like a data system, a storage system for that that is in Europe. That's also important. At the moment is not in our local facilities. Um, then we go for the data collection system. The data collection is typically done in the normal way that the researchers do. They just do the interviews. They record it either using a video tool or audio tool, and they record that, and then afterwards they can upload that into our system. The AIDA then goes into automatic transcription. There is some models out there that can help you with this, but there is the speaker diarization, make identification of the speaker, make sure that timestamp is correct, but also be able to allow the researcher to change things if they see, for example, the transcription is not correct, or if they have doubt, they can go back to the audio or the video and collect and verify if those are correct because everything is timestamped. So this is a workflow that we can support the researchers to automatically do the transcription and have even almost like a confidence value of, okay, how much this specific text was translated or transcribed, and then this is how effective it is. Um, Now, this is the part where we actually have assist the researchers using large language models to after scribing the test to do inducive or deductive coding. So deductive coding is where you actually identify patterns and suggest a categorization for the text and the transcriptions that you have, and have some coding that is suggested to the researchers to use. But we also allow inductive coding, which when the researchers define their own codes, they define their own frameworks, and everything in between, right? They can start with deductive coding and then introduce their own inductive coding and allow the AI to be processed and to work on this. This is a more like exploratory type of support, but allows the researchers to, for example, understand and partake exploration areas which they didn't thought originally, for example. Step four is the human review and refinements. This is where we allow this process to go back and forward, and we want the researcher to revise, to refine this process until he's happy with it. We don't want to just go in AI, just does all the work and present me the result. No, we want that direct loop, that there is a dialogue between what they see as the data and how the human researcher can actually digest that information. Um, Step four is about exporting integration. So we want this to be afterwards create a series of information that they can be put into other tools or to directly to their reports or their papers and actually use that as a result. So step four is more about be able to use the digested areas, the findings that they got from this tool to actually be able to integrate further down the road. So in terms of the AIDA project, we've been looking at other tools that actually do this type of work, and we feel that there is a series of advantages of using AIDA, and we're currently in development. So if you want to participate on our work, please let us know. There's clearly some key benefits in terms of cost reduction, but also enhanced accuracy and quality, scalability, and obviously being present in Europe and be able to be compliant with GDPR. So very quickly, where we are, we actually have defined development milestones. We already have a really core team that is currently working on this, and we currently are achieving quite good results in terms of transcription, and we focusing on the development further of the platform. We already have user interface defined, so we're currently moving to the implementation of the connection with the backend models that we're already working. And this is just one specific example of the work that we are looking at and how we are working at. I'm trying to give you guys a bit of a perspective of what is the AI perspective, what is our BUas position, and a specific use case that and how we are tackling it and why you're tackling it. So you have a bit of the sense of the work we've been working on. But one thing that I really want to take in, and if there's a takeaway to take here, is that AI is something that is coming, and is something that we have to be aware of, and we want to try to shift in the right direction and try to work towards the positive future. And that's what me and my team are trying to work on. So, yeah, thank you very much. I'm gladly help and accept more questions and hear a bit from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you very much for your excellent presentation. I think we have about 20 minutes for further discussions, and I see that there are already two persons opened up the discussion in the chat. So Wade asked a question, and Jessie the Coker asked a question. One Wade's question is about ethics, and Jessie's question is more about the large language model assisted analysis in the system that you just presented. Maybe it's good if we turn the order around and maybe give Jessie the opportunity to ask the question because it's more related to the tool that you just presented. And I assume that a lot of discussions also will go on the ethics and the consequences. So then maybe we pick up Wade's question after that one. Jessie, do you want to elaborate on your question? You can
Sure.
share your screen or whatever. I just read your question to it, but maybe you can introduce it also a little bit to the other things and then give Carlos the opportunity to answer and go into your question.
Sure. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I'm a PhD researcher at Fontes Journalism, currently working on a PhD study with Utrecht University. And currently I'm investigating the analysis methods, LLM assisted analysis. And in my own experience, I see that while you can really prompt the LLM system in different ways, very good to not hallucinate, for example. I was wondering in the AIDA project with regarding the assisted analysis you presented, what steps do you take to kind of review the quality of your AI output, I mean?
Because we're targeting qualitative research is a very broad topic, and the context has a lot to do with how you interpret it, how, for example, understanding acronyms of what that means in this specific context is something that is really important, for example. What we can do is try to mitigate that to two ways. One, try to use work in data sets that we actually know about and try to compare them with outcomes that the AI can give. So it's a testing part. But the other thing that we have to mitigate is that, again, AI being a tool, the tool sometimes does not get it right. So it's our responsibility to actually make sure that the outcome of what is there, it is what we want. This is to improve efficiency. We cannot guarantee 100%, but what we can do is saying we're trying our best to do this for you, and try to give you some insights. The large language models that we're using is mainly for the classification of, for example, the deductive coding, where we actually already have the tokens and the work that we have into different sentences, and that's already encoded. And that's basically, okay, trying to get around what are the topics and try to do a semantic first the statistic analysis first, and then we ask the AI just, okay, using this, what are the main topics that you see that are recurring it in this type of sentences. So we do different types of analysis that don't only use large language models, but yeah, we use them, and the only thing we can do is give back to the user because it's very specific on that domain, that the knowledge domain should be part of the researcher. So all of those things that go back, say, make sure that this is correct. So what we keep treating this as suggestions. This is something that might be good for you. Can you look at this? But this is still in part of responsibility of the user. And this is what we should do. And this is a bit of coming back from my beginning when we we're talking about in the beginning. AI has no conscious, they have no ethical backgrounds. They only have a variety of texts that they're based themselves on. So we still have to be the ones responsible for the outcomes of whatever AI is. And it's also a bit of coming back a bit again to the agentic AI. We have to be careful about how we want to give a agency to our tools and our AIs. So basically, it's a bit of a roundup. And thank you for the question because it allowed me to wrap up a bit
Jesse,
of
Jesse, does that answer your question? Do you have a follow-up question? Do you want to challenge Carlos a little bit? Because
Please do. I love
yes,
challenges.
that makes it a lot of fun for us also. So do you agree, or you have specific things or details that you would like to follow up on?
I kind of really agree with the the things, Carlos, you're saying about that it's that you really have the influence to kind of steer the LLM and use it only as part of a broader analysis. So not as the only analytical tool that you can have. For like disclosure, I'm currently working on a quote extraction system where you can extract journalistic quotes from journalistic articles, and I'm seeing good things happening there. And what I am really doing in that sense is really um, kind of seeing and evaluating if the system is working properly based on a manual set annotated articles. So I think that also reflects on what you are saying, Carlos, that you need to
Yeah.
be able to review the system with a manually human kind of coded content or data set. So that's what I really like. And I think in a sense, it's also really difficult because these different outputs you get or these hallucinations are really embedded in LLMs. So in that regard, I think it's really how do you see that? How can you maybe give a concrete or example on how you try to tackle that in your work, just to kind of get the or maybe enhance the quality of the LLM output?
Yes. So it's it's partially it's been enhanced by the founding models that we've been coming. So there's a lot of work being done there. Um, but also there is the work that we have to look at the biases. I think for, even more than hallucinations that can be more or less detected, I think the hidden problems is a bit of the bias that it might bring that might not come naturally and not might be easily identifiable. And that for me is where we can look at doing some work around what the data sets that we are using. Are they accurate? Are they relevant? That's a bit back on the work that we were looking at. But also a lot of testing. Testing is I work in critical software industry in the past, and the only thing that they do different from software development, the regular software development like airplanes and nuclear plants, they to test and test and test. That's the only thing we can actually do. The other element that you can look at is explainable AI. That's another element it's upcoming, but it's currently very difficult because we don't understand still fully how the AI is coming together as a model, mainly because of the scale, right? Like we're talking about millions of parameters that are coming together to come with a sense, and our brains and cannot wrap our heads around how that is being achieved. There is some indication, there's some elements there, but at the moment we can have to trust AI to analyze AI, and that becomes a natural cycle that is difficult to achieve.
I'm going to stop here for a moment to see if we can open up the discussion a bit to other people. At least Wade also had a question. Wade, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Can you hear me?
yeah, I can
It's a
hear
little.
you very
I'm standing
clearly.
outside, so it's pretty
You
windy.
had a
Okay.
question about
Yeah.
ethics. Maybe
Yeah.
you want to
I've
elaborate
been.
on it and maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I've got a few good points that I call it speak about, but I was wondering if there's any maybe concrete example on like a time where you really saw that you'd either walked into an ethical like conundrum and then you had to kind of backstep the production.
That's a good question. So make it concrete, your ethical dilemmas, Carlos.
Yeah, I have a concrete one that we worked on, for example, in a diffusion model to do image generation elements, and that's a big problem in terms of IPs, right? Like where is this data coming from? So we have to we currently are using some elements there that we have to be a bit more careful in how we use the data sets and where we're coming and sourcing the founding data sets and models that we use based on the work that we have. Because at the moment IP and IP laws is still unclear to define how some of those models were trained. The other one that also comes to mind has to do with the discussion of responsibility. So, who is responsible? And again, in the line of the agentic AI, when the AI is directly connecting, for example, with a client, and I had a case that I was connecting to a company, when the AI chatbot said, "Hey, here is something that I'm gonna give or provide to my customer," and it actually does not fall in line with the company policy, what happens then? So that was another problem because the chatbot was representing the company, and the company had to assume legally what the chatbot was saying. But they were trying to come to me like, "Hey, can we do something about it?" Like, well, no, you legally bind it. So it was another problem that I was fun to challenge and to discuss, but it was not happy for a company in the sense that it was still representing the company, it was still providing services, so the company was responsible.
Okay, wait, are you
Yeah,
happy with the answer? Follow-up questions?
yeah, those are pretty concrete examples, and I can definitely see
You relate to
things
it?
like that happening. Well, just knowing how sometimes AI, like its output can be, it does sound like there's going to be a lot of that still for a while. But it's
Probably.
interesting to hear like the actual cases happening with real projects and real companies.
Okay, good.
Yeah, thanks.
Anyone else a question? Just go ahead. There's nothing in the chat, but just unmute yourself, show your video, and then I got a question about AI in research project. A study I did made students use a lot of AI, but can't the extensive use of AI determine the critical thinking in a researcher? Nick V. Nick, do you want to elaborate, clarify?
Yeah, so yeah, it's more of an ethical question. So I did a study at Fontis,
Mhm.
and they used a lot of AI in research, even until even in the extent where some students used it to copy and paste research projects they did. So I feel like it hurts the critical thinking of students a bit, and I am I don't know if AIDA also researches this part of the ethical parts of AI.
No, so the AIDA project is mainly a tool to support researchers doing the analysis of the tool or the data they collected. In terms of having the students or someone using AI to replace and extensive work, it's not really the focus of AIDA. Still, what I can say is that um, I think the problem there, and don't get me wrong, it's maybe the evaluation process that you're doing. One of the things that we are doing, for example, in-house in BUas, is that we are rethinking some of our evaluation methods for our students because reports anyone can just go to ChatGPT or to Claude and just type in something, give me a report about this, and it will write for you. So the question is not about can they write a report? Maybe what they should know is, do they know the content of the report? And then there might be other alternatives in terms of evaluating the students, either being dialogues or things like missing the term, like challenges-based elements where they actually have to present, but not only presenting, they have to debate. Debate was the word I was looking at. Debating the term, presenting positive and negative effects, or so there is that side of things that we have to look at, which it changes a bit the process, changes a bit of the way we work on things, but it's more about what are we actually evaluating, what are actually we measuring, and that is something that needs to be looked at very, very carefully.
Okay.
Nick, do you relate to it? Do you agree?
Yeah, I do. Can I ask another question?
Please
Of
do.
course you can.
So if you're researching how AI works and if that's ethical, like how do you find out where the data comes from? Because these large language models and these creative models, they use photos, but how do you know where these photos come from? Because there are some lawsuits going on.
Yeah. So
Uh,
So there is different sides of things, right? Like there is public available data sets that you can use to train your own models, and large and small and all kinds of things from enzymes to etc. And they typically give you exactly where those photos are coming from, where they collated, where they collected, etc. There's also public models like ChatGPT and Claude and even for diffusion models that are commercial-based companies that are using data, and that data sets are collated and created by their own companies. And this is the ones we don't have knowledge and information about. There's also some open sources ones that they uh, show the model and give you the model, but they don't tell you where the data set's coming from. But there is enough data sets out there to do different types of work. So it depends a bit on the ones you choose, and when you select a model, you have to consider the ethical implications and where that information comes from.
Okay,
so
thank you.
So when you're using ChatGPT or like a language model that you can't, that's not open source, there's no way to know the data set that they used, where they got the pictures.
Yeah, is
There.
there proprietary? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have about 4 minutes left. Is there anybody else with a question? Maybe in the team that I see in the Cradle Lab, you have a question for Carlos. No, nobody? Okay. Now then I ask a question.
Go for it.
And it follows up on, I think, on the research tool that you showed. And I think it's actually a combination of it, because it feels it's like an intermediary platform to give access to certain tools that you can use to do in the entire pipeline of your research analysis and whatever. But how much of it is our own developed or whatever software? And then related to that, and I think Jesse asked the question, what if you can plug in your own tool in that pipeline and maybe make it communicating, integrating, whatever, because you might have person X or institution X might have its own preference for tool number 2, whatever, but it only covers one little part or step in the entire process. But the other things you want to plug it in. Is that something you have considered? Is it operational?
Yes and no. So first of all, I want to give a shout out to my research team, mainly to
always.
Surya, Surya, Jens, and Andrea. They've been doing an amazing job. Thank you very much for the work they've been pushing together, because all of the things in that, and Tuki is also a big part of this as well. All of the work that I've been presenting, this is their work. I'm just presenting it. So thank you. Very, very big shout out to them. In terms of what is currently our own development and what are we currently just taking out from existing sources, we are actually developing a lot in-house. We actually have the capabilities to not only adapt, model, and train our own systems, and we have been creating some data sets, but we also been adapting a lot of the model. So it's a mix.
But can you plug in? I'm speeding up a bit because we have 1 or 2 minutes left. Can you plug in your own, or in the future, if somebody has a tool that he wants to integrate with other stations?
Yes and no. So we are creating a modularity setup so that the backend system is very modular. The problem is that they still have to have access to our hardware to run that software, and that has risks in terms of security. So yes, we are creating a modularity system that we can alter, change, replace existing setups that we have, but that has security risks that we're not sure we want to incur and allow.
Somebody else, a final burning question or point? This is your last chance. And I think it's 1 o'clock and we better stop on time. I feel we would like to continue, which is a good indication for a successful meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Carlos. And no, I hope we will have many of these discussions and continue the topics. AI is there to stay. That's right. If we can draw one conclusion from this meeting, then it's that. But we already knew. Thank you very much. I want to thank everybody for attending this meeting. See you next time. I think maybe the next time will be after summer. I'm not sure if we still have one before summer. And maybe we will do it in a slightly different setup, but we will let you know. And if we don't see you before summer, then we already start to wish you a very, very nice summer. Bye-bye.